Hello, and welcome back to Dream and Base. Today is May 19th of 2022, and we're coming in today with a bunch of hot new tracks and even some interviews with artists RealLies and Ratosphere. Well, let's get to it. I'm here with Ratosphere, and we're going to listen to one of his songs, System Shock. But before that, I'd like to hear what genre of EDM he feels he falls under.
Well, I'd say I fall under dubstep, cyberpunk, glitch, a little bit of trap, and just a little bit of everything else. System Shock was kind of designed to be a hybrid infusion of dubstep and trap as an experiment to see if I could do what I was already doing with the dubstep genre, but a little bit more with the trap influence. And I think it turned out pretty good. So, yeah.
I think it did too. Well, without further ado, here is his first song, System Shock. Well, that was a great track. I really enjoyed the intro. It kind of felt like it had some Daft Punk vibes, but as it continued, it had some very good deep love. Um, how do you feel about the song?
I really like how this song turned out. I feel it might be one of the best songs that I made for this album, Mixed Signals, which I ended up releasing on May 7th. But it's it's definitely on the line of being experimental and kind of like within the borders and organized and structurally sound at the same time. I wanted it to be clean yet just experimental enough to catch your attention throughout the entire song. So I'm pretty happy with it.
So I hear with a lot of your songs, you care a lot about putting a lot of the time and effort into sound engineering all of your own instruments. What leads you to do that?
What leads me to do this is a belief in originality. I really like the kind of artistry where you put a lot of effort into every little thing that you're spending time on in the track. Like everything is thought out, everything feels like it belongs there because you've grinded on this thing for so long that it's exactly the vision that you want it to be because you have control over every little aspect of the design that you can possibly have, and that control is what really I think is what draws me to it.
I think that really shines through on your song. But let's get into the next song. All right, now I am here with RealLies, and on our last podcast, we played Mafdet. We liked it so much, we're gonna have it again. And the artist behind it is here to talk about it as well. We've got RealLies here. And, what do you think your biggest influences as far as genre goes for RealLies?
Yeah, I think of like corporate coyote kisses, those kind of things, you know. But yeah, I started making music like kind of a long time ago, but not very often. Like I made maybe like a couple songs in middle school and stuff, and back then like I was really into like kind of what was popular at the time, like mainly like Skrillex and Dead Mouse, if that can even be like I thought that was dubstep at the time, but I wouldn't call it dubstep. But anyways, yeah, I got inspired by older artists, and I still like older artists, and like I don't know, like I'm not gonna say that I make like classic style dubstep exactly, but like I do draw a lot from that, and I also I like trap, and I kind of don't like the direction that Trap Nation ended up going. I think it just got worse and worse. I think old school Trap Nation, man, I just feel old fucking saying all this shit, but yeah, dude, old school shit, man.
Yeah, I can definitely agree that a lot of old school shit is good, but I think a problem with EDM music nowadays, a lot of the good stuff that's being produced is hidden underneath a pile of garbage because so many different people are making music and our production companies have been just abandoning artists for crappy songs. That's one of the reasons that I've made Dream and Bass. Well, without further ado, here is Mafdet.
Off that.
was a great track, RealLies, and it definitely evoked some strong emotion. But what artist really influenced you in making this track?
So yeah, recently I've just been listening to some older music. Um Krella really comes to mind, and I also just got Splice, which is really great. And I got all these fucking samples now that I can just use, and I realized like wow, like like I don't have to actually like hire a singer. I can just literally grab some crap off of Splice and arrange it nicely, and it sounds fucking great in my opinion. And yeah, I've been doing this with some newer songs too. I went pretty heavy on the vocals with that one, but uh, I think it came out good as a one-off. I think it's nice to have is probably how I would say it.
What do you think is what kind of musical style do you have? What do you put a lot of influence into when creating a song?
So I have a pretty unique slash probably frowned upon way of making music where I kind of just don't think about it and just kind of dump a bunch of crap together until it starts sounding decent. And once it starts sounding decent, then I just start removing the crap that sounds less decent and then replacing it with better sounding, not so crap. And yeah, and to anyone listening, the reason why you don't want to make music like that is because if you start with so what you're supposed to do is you're supposed to start with like a 4 bar kind of uh riff almost, where basically you have like say like the basic intro block is like this 4 bars, and and then once you got that like pretty much exactly how you want it, um then you make another 4 bars for say like the middle, and then another 4 bars for the drop, and then once you've done all that, then you can start kind of like mixing and matching and kind of fleshing out the song. But I don't know, I just get like really like ADHD when I like sit down and start making music, and like I just want to be like touching stuff all the time. So I've tried to make music like that. I've succeeded maybe like once. It's just kind of intense mental exercise.
So it sounds like to me you're taking more of a chunk of raw sound where you just put a pile of stuff and then you chisel out a masterpiece.
Yeah, kind of.
It sounds like you talk down on your musical stylings, but it definitely comes to a great conclusion in the end.
Yeah, right. I mean, it works if you keep at it. Like you can basically make music however you want. If you just keep polishing it, like eventually it'll get to a point where it sounds good.
We as Phantom Collective just recently dropped this new track by Hookington and Seporia called Look at Me. Let's give it a listen.
Look at me, yeah, I call the shots. No, I won't be soft, 'cause I know what I want, yeah. Yeah, I want this, you know I got this. Look at me, yeah, I call the shots. No, I won't be soft, 'cause I know what I want, yeah. Yeah, I want this, you know I got this. Do those.
I feel like that song hit with the vibe of Skrillex. What artist do you think that brought to mind, Ratosphere?
That's really hard to say. I wasn't very good with honestly remembering artist names from that time. I was more on an individual track basis when I got music to put in my playlist back in the day. But it reminds me of a couple of things. Like there's slight Nero vibes. There's definitely obviously Skrillex vibes. Um yeah, I guess that's really all that comes to mind on that right now. But I really like those bass drops. Those all the drops from beginning to end were just beautifully polished and had some really good instruments and good sequence changes and all that. Everything sounded right. It's just a really fucking awesome song, and I would definitely suggest to anyone to check out Hookington and Seporia. Because they make a lot of shit that sounds just as good as this, and I really think that this is a good direction to go for anyone looking for this kind of stuff.
So, when looking at a track like this, how would you describe the sounds that he made as a sound producer?
I would describe these sounds as very 2012 dubstep, but in a way that is cleaned up for the modern time, like in 2022. It's like it has those echoes of the older style of dubstep, but it has the change ups of modern dubstep, and that's what makes it really cool. Plus, the intro and ending sequences are not as stereotypical as a lot of those older, songs you would hear from that era. The style of those songs, how they would sound back then. But yeah, I think these sounds are very melodic. There's a lot of melodic intention going on here, where he is putting all these little melodic riffs and rises and falls in just the right places that are really bringing out the energy of the song. So yeah, very cool.
Hell yeah. Well, let's get back to music by people we have in studio. Back to Ratosphere, he's got another track that you'd like to showcase.
So this track is called Ask Why. It basically asks you to ask why. This track is one that I made kind of in reference to Enron, but more in dealing of hiding things from the public, which is something that corporations like to do sometimes. So, yeah, this is basically just a reference to the mysteriousness of the two-faced business person trying to tell all their investors and the public that everything's fine when in fact it's not. So this is Ask Why.
that song, it kind of made me feel like, I'm working hard for a long time, but like, why? Maybe I need to give up my societal standards of, what I'm doing, and that the bass almost feels oppressive. It's like, it really generates that feeling that maybe we need to ask that question, why? Um, what inspired you to write this, Ratosphere?
Um, so what inspired me to write this was I sometimes have these nostalgia kind of rabbit holes that I go down where I'll go on YouTube or whatever and I'll watch like videos about some random thing I'm thinking about. And one day I was thinking about this old obsession I had with Enron because I looked up everything about the scandal that happened. It was before my time, but I was still pretty interested in it. And I thought it was probably one of the most interesting business stories that ever really happened just because of how blatant everything they did was. And so I thought it was only fair for me to make a song that contributed to that obsession of mine from the past. And Ask Why was the child of that. So yeah.
Well, now we know. The song Ghosts of Arbitrage is a great example of heavy dub. It really captures it. What are your thoughts on this, Realize?
Ghost of Arbitrage was a song I made when I was just like in a very prolonged, deep state of thought, and I kind of like tried to capture the kind of this mindset I can get into, like when I'm really like trying to like come to a solution on something, and the name Ghosts of Arbitrage uh I thought of because I was talking to my friend from California. I don't know if you're worried about getting doxxed, dude. But yeah, let me know. I might mention you again in the future. But yeah, he inspired this name because he thinks kind of similarly to me, and we we had been like talking about like globalism and shit for a while, and yeah, Ghost of Arbitrage is meant to be a reference to the forces at play in the financial markets that kind of make everything fluid, and you don't really notice. And it's not just limited to financial markets. Like there are forces everywhere that arbitrage for their own benefit and basically make life as clean and operable as it is. I mean, not saying that it is, but that's a whole different speech.
Well, yeah, it's a pretty solid track, and what led you to start feeling this emotion that the song really gives off?
I forget exactly when I made this, but fuck. Yeah, I would say it was probably business. Probably markets have not. Yeah, I trade stocks, and it has not been going well. It has actually been going very not well, and and yeah, I just for a second I was getting kind of dark about it, and then I don't know. I guess I just kind of started thinking more rationally, and and then I just kind of like this song specifically was probably a result of like meditation, or at least starting to meditate again and just kind of calming myself down.
So, this song does have a very meditative feel about it. It kind of feels circular almost, and I like that about it. It really helps generate the vibe that it gives off. Do you use this circular type feeling in other tracks that you write?
Yeah, so this is definitely not how I normally make music. This song was probably one of the first in a series where I really kind of broke off from what I had been doing before. Like, not that what I had been doing before wasn't working. In fact, quite the opposite. I kind of am not super attached to like this period of my music just because it kind of got uncreative. I guess like this song specifically, like it doesn't go anywhere, and that's the point. But like after this, I kind of just started pumping out like some rap, which is not bad. It's just I made like kind of what feels like two or three of the same songs. Um, but I don't know. I might keep making music like this. I might not. But yeah, it's definitely not my normal style.
Well, I personally enjoy that style. This next track that we're about to listen to is a new artist in the Phantom Collective. This is INVISN. He is coming at us with his song Heaven.
Is that it? God? Well, I tell you, let me give you a little inside information about God. God likes to watch. He's a prankster. Think about it. He gives man instincts. He gives you this extraordinary under the sea, different sweets, pumping gold. So we tan up the fucking club, brothers on big, all the niggas, hell no deal.
So this song came through with a very trap vibe, but it was still kind of upbeat. It's hard to label. It sounded kind of like dark trap, but as far as that goes, it sounded a little happy compared to that, and I really enjoyed it. And the intros and outros I thought were very gentle way to push the song together. But realize here, you also have a trap style. How would you compare your style to his?
Yeah, I would say that INVISN definitely goes for kind of what I want to say it's popular. Maybe it's not. I used to follow this a lot. It kind of feels like dark trap, but not quite. It's not like that dark. I really like it, and in fact, when I do a lot of like curation on SoundCloud, and when I was yeah, when I was looking through the feed, this guy really stood out because I couldn't really quite place it, and but he's got pretty professional sound quality and only like 30 subscribers or 30 followers. Fuck, my music is kind of more trappy in like the classic trap nation sort of sense, where it hits with subs mastered well. It's clean, upbeat, and then I mix that with sort of like, you know, sort of like a dubstep feel. But this guy, INVISN, INVISN is just dark, uh, but dark and melodic too, and he's really good with his synths. I really really like it. I hope we continue working with this guy. He's got a lot of music. It's all about this good.
Well, we're back at it with another track by Ratosphere. He's here to talk about his song Mixed Signals next. Um, what brought the creation of Mixed Signals for you?
So, just like the last time, this was another nostalgia rabbit hole that I went down. And this time it was for a game I've actually never played, but I have seen and heard clips from it, and I played its sister game, Portal, and Portal 2, which I think are some of the best games possibly ever made that have like a story to it. But um, I made Mixed Signals mainly as an intro track for my album Mixed Signals, but it's meant to have the vibes of basically a science experiment gone completely wrong, resulting in an album's worth of insane tracks. And I think it sets up that premise pretty well. And that's one reason I think it's possibly one of the best tracks I've ever made, is that it's conceptually fluent throughout, and there's enough change ups to where I think it really holds itself together as a storytelling experience. I also really enjoy Half-Life as a series. I think Half-Life is um, a really good series, really good story that basically emulates some things I think that will be possibly going on in our future, which is something I like to thematically bring into my work from time to time. So, yeah, that's Mixed Signals for you.
Testing. Everything seems to be in order. All right, Gordon. Your suit should keep you comfortable through all this. The specimen will be delivered to you in a few moments. If you would be so good as to climb up and start the rotors, we can bring the anti-mass spectrometer to 80% and hold it there until the carrier arrives. We'll take it from here.
So I think that this song really showcased the whole art of EDM. I feel like the music from the past with a less dynamic instrument, like with a guitar or with a piano, even, you're kind of playing a song, you know what medium it is, you can always pick out the instrument. But now with this new computerized, digitized instrument of a production studio, you can really generate a lot more music. You can't always tell what medium you're using. What? How would you describe this medium?
So, how I would describe my medium, which for making music like I do, it ends up being a DAW, which is a digital audio workstation for making music all together on the computer. But I use it basically similarly to how an artist would use his paint on his canvas. Um, Basically, I have a timeline that I use like a canvas, and I paint on top of it using various noises that look like blocks when you place them inside of the timeline, and you just kind of assemble all this together. And I'm a very visual person, so visually, I like watching all of it come together on the timeline, so I can like be like, okay, I can screw with this little part here or screw with this little part over here, and that'll affect this. And my brain just works that way. While I know with other people, too much visual stuff gives them extreme headaches. So I just really like having a visual thing that I can do all of the music stuff I want to do on and have it just all connect together and make sense. And that's what I really love about making music on a computer, is that I have the freedom to basically do whatever I want, no matter what my setup is outside of the computer.
So after this show, we're gonna be doing a second podcast. It's gonna be like an after hours kind of thing where basically we just get a little more stupid and don't really make sense anymore.
Hello, guys. My name is Ratosphere, and I am here to talk to RealLies about his track Part Time Executive, and more specifically, about his process. So, RealLies, what inspires you to come up with some of these ideas that you go with for these tracks, and these ideas you also utilize for making your sound?
Yeah. So before I made part time executive, I was kind of thinking about. I was kind of in a phase where I wasn't really making much good stuff, and I was making a lot of garbage, and I was thinking like I couldn't really make music as well anymore because I not too long before that I'd made this song called Digital Wolves, which was, in my opinion, like at the time, like I was like, oh my god, this is like the best song ever, and I was having trouble like kind of like reaching that again, and I took a second and I was like, well, what used to work? And I listened to one of the first songs I ever made that I still listen to called "Stimulant Drugs," and I thought about this this middle part specifically. The drop was a lot of samples. In fact, I think it was entirely samples, and I just went hard. And when I was working on the song, I lived with this guy who was he's really musically inclined, but kind of more like traditionally, so to speak. And I showed him the kind of like my first attempt at kind of this hard drop, and he's like, "Oh my god, what the fuck is this noise? Like, what the fuck is? I don't understand this at all." And then I'm like, "Well, like, is it bad?" And he's like, "Well, it's messy, you know. Like, you got to at least clean it up. And even if you clean it up, it's like I don't know. This is pretty out there, but." Yeah, anyways, I cleaned it up and he listened to it again and he's like, "Yeah, that's objectively better. Like I don't necessarily agree with it, but I posted it in a lot of people ended up liking it, and I still like it. I'd say it's kind of closer to rhythm than I usually go. But anyways, to digress from that, I was thinking about what worked in the past, and I was like, well, why don't I just try that again? Like, why don't I just do a really heavy sample song with uh kind of like some synths like outside of the drops to kind of carry it, and yeah, it just worked really well.
That's really nice.
Listen here, Bart Simpson. I am sick and tired of you blaming me for every setback you have ever had. And you have talent too, you idiot. You're a hell of an artist, even though you don't do anything with it.
You fuck any pretty birdies in my server room, put a tie on the doorknob, won't you?
Oh, it's a signal. Yeah, good thinking.
That's really nice.
Really something. I'll hit her up, eh?
Okay, cool. Yeah, that's good. Bye, Jerry.
Alright, this song is another great example about the versatility of this whole genre of EDM. I could list songs here for hours that sound completely different, and it would all fall under the umbrella of EDM. But when creating this style of music, what tools do you use to make your songs?
So generally, I use Splice for samples, which is basically like a kind of like a marketplace for sound, and you can kind of just like browse through it, and they basically charge you like, for me, what works out to be like maybe like 10 cents for a sound. And if I'm doing more like melodic stuff, then then I'll when I'm not using other people's samples, I make my own sounds in this program called Serum, which is basically an extension for Ableton. It allows you to do pretty complex stuff, starting with a sine wave, and you can like add modifiers and kind of add things that affect other things that affect things that affect things. Like you can go pretty deep if you want to. I'm still not super great at using it, but I know how to make a few things, and I know how a few of the knobs work, and that actually gets you pretty far. That gets you a lot farther than you might think. And I can make. I don't know if you were just like realize like just make a violin. You know, I could probably do that in like maybe like half an hour or so. Like really, that's what's really crazy about music is like there's a lot of different ways to make a noise. Like right now, like I'm talking in real life, but like you're just hearing me as like this 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 disc that's just pushing air out of your computer, making it sound like me very realistically, but it's not me. I'm not your computer.
Yeah, and my dad's not a phone. Alright, that was the last song we had on deck for today's show. And thank you for listening. Please subscribe and you know, all of that stuff. We'll be hosting a whole new Dream and Bass After Hours podcast as well. You can give it a listen. It'll just be kind of less thought out and more just kind of us talking to each other.